Welcome to today's MBNA benefits webinar with certified safety training. My name is Rachel Dager. I'm the Director of Communications for MBNA. Glad you're joining us for our 30-minute presentation today. We will be hearing from our safety partner, Certified Safety Training, CST, and their partner, Mark Harrison, who's on the call today. We'll talk about OSHA training programs that ensures that your employees are aware of and follow OSHA guidelines. And just Mark will talk about this too, but just a reminder that as an MBNA member, you do get a discount on their services, and he'll explain the details of that. CST works shoulder to shoulder with you to make sure your workplace is safer, save you money, and avoid potential fines. Goal is to ensure you comply with federal and state safety and environmental regulations without dealing with unnecessary paperwork or stress. So this is just a quick kind of 30-minute chat, and we will have time for questions. But then also, Mark is happy to answer any questions after this call. And I said we're recording, so we'll post this on the MBNA website as a reference. So we'll let Mark get started. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Rachel, and thanks to everyone for being here. I know you're all busy, so I'll go through this fairly quickly and try to give you some takeaways. And then if you have questions, just let me know. This presentation is kind of an abbreviated version of what I gave in San Diego last year. And then I'll kind of kick it over and show you what our product looks like and some of our services. So typically when I share my screen, I have to move you over, which I'm just doing for 1 second to my other screen. Okay, can I get a thumbs up if you can see this blue screen with MBNA text on it? Yeah? Okay, thanks, Daryl. All right, so Rachel kind of gave an overview of who we are. This is the presentation that was titled MBNA OSHA 101, How to Run Your Safe Workplace Without Going Broke. That's kind of key. So there's two sides to that coin. There's the upfront investment and making sure your employees are safe and you're doing the right thing and you've got good retention and people come to work. And then there's the avoiding OSHA fines, but also lowering workers' comp, right, to the extent that you can. So all of this stuff really can be a good investment in your team and your business. Just a bit about us. We obviously work with the MBNA. We also work with all the major death care providers. We are the #1 safety supplier to these organizations across the US and Canada. Obviously, OSHA is a US regulatory body, but there are 23 states that have additional regulations in addition to the federal requirements by OSHA. Just a bit about me. In addition to working with the MBNA, I've got 16 years of technology and educational startup experience, a master's in education focused on adult learners. All of our materials are backed by certified safety professionals, which is the highest standard in the industry. And if you ever call me, you'll see that my state only has one area code. And typically, if I'm giving this presentation for credit or anything like that, if you can guess the state, I let you go early. But this isn't that interactive. You're all muted. So I'm just going to assume that you all guessed New Hampshire. So well done. I mentioned this a second ago, but all the states with the blue or dark blue have some nuance to them. You know, I'm thinking of even Maine, which is an odd one to think about, but Maine has a very specific ladder safety requirement. California has a lot of different requirements. So depending on where you're located, you either have to hit the federal baseline, which are these kind of light blue states, a regulatory enhancement, which are these kind of blue states, and then the navy blue, the darker blue, have additional requirements. And some of these apply to private workers, some of them apply to federal workers. So it really depends on where you're located. Okay, typically when I give presentations like this, I try to make them interactive. This is not going to be that type of a presentation. We will have Q&A at the end. But I always ask this question when I get started, just to get people in the right mindset. Now, raise your hand metaphorically if you think about safety and OSHA. And usually people have their hands up and they say, yeah, we thought about it. And if you've talked about it, keep your hand up. Hands usually stay up. If you've done the training on it. So typically when you onboard a new employee, you say, don't do this, do this. We have this as our protocol. Thinking, talking, and training are all wonderful things to do. The biggest thing is whether or not you can prove it. right? Do you have the record keeping in place, the manuals, the safety data sheets, proof of training, any sort of corrective action plan if an incident does happen? That's what OSHA is going to look for, because they're going to believe you, but they need to prove it to their superiors as well. Okay, real quick, some new developments from an OSHA standpoint. Uh, you don't have to submit electronically. At least most monument companies don't. It's 250 employees or more. OSHA has a new electronic management system to get more data and manage their data better. You do need to maintain records for 5+ years, and you do need to post any injury updates in February and April every year. That's pretty important. After an injury, there's a couple different forms to fill out. They're listed here, the 300 and 300A forms. You should also have a series of posters around the facility. You should have days since an accident. If you don't have that already, I know every monument company I've ever seen has it, so I'm assuming most of the people on this call have it. There are HR related materials as well, and then insurance and workers' compensation. It's kind of the last step to this chain. I'm not going to go into the great detail about the differences between 300, 300A and the 301 forms. Just note that some of these are public, some of them are private. It's pretty clear on the forms, but I'm happy to explain that in the Q&A section if anyone has questions. Okay, what's coming? So California is kind of the bleeding edge when it comes to worker safety and the regulations that follow that. Everyone on this call, I'm sure, is well aware of silica and silicosis. Right now, California has an emergency temporary standard, which will likely become a standard across all of the countertop and cut stone industry. The reason they have that is because there's 10 folks that have died in the last few years from silicosis, many of whom were under the age of 40. So California is taking this very seriously. It's got a lot of publicity on it. And usually what happens with California means it's going to cascade across the country as California goes from a regulatory standpoint. Other states tend to follow. So if you don't have a respiratory protection program with a focus on silica at this point, you should definitely get one. I'd highly recommend it. There's a lot of little things you can do that will really help your employees stay safe, including providing respirators, training on respirators, doing the fit testing, the medical testing, and ensuring you have the right ventilation and proper maintenance of those respirators in the workplace. So here's a quick timeline of where things stand. I would only add a fourth bullet here that this spring there was more publicity on this, and that which means that by the end of the year this will probably be not an emergency temporary standard. It'll just be a standard across Cal OSHA. That's typically what happens with these things. They take about a year to cement into something that's evergreen. Really, the focus of this emergency temporary standard is better use of water, higher cleaning restrictions, procedure documentation, and then training and employee communication, both at the time of employment, but also at the time of assignment. So if you have somebody who's moving from doing one thing to cutting stone, or hasn't worked with silica dust in the past and is beginning to, they need to be trained at that point of assignment. Okay. So I kind of whipped through the first 15 or so slides here. This is a 50-slide presentation. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but we do have a number of videos that address this. Here's a quick overview of one of our videos. If you could just give me a thumbs up if you can hear the music. No music? That's okay. Well, the long and short of it is we've got a lot of videos that are customized to the industry. And if you can't hear them, I'm not going to play them, but I'll skip through it here. And what these are designed to do is to give you an overview as an employer or safety supervisor or an employee of the dangers of silica and silicosis. And these also help you check the box with OSHA, and I'll show you more about that in a moment. So what we do for our clients is we design these very specific compliance sites, basically. And I'll show you more about a more extensive site in a moment, but Caldwell Monument, which is an MBNA member, signed up with us, and we were able to basically create a custom site that has all these different trainings on it. And they've basically designed their safety program so that every month they have one specific topic. that they hit. And they hit it both from a video standpoint, a conversation standpoint, and then they force their employees to take a little bit of a knowledge test at the end of it. Our larger course, which contains all of these items, looks like this. So it covers everything here on the left. I hope people can see this. There's silica, ladder safety, heat illness prevention is a big one that OSHA is paying a lot of attention to right now. And then it requires an exam at the end. So you'll see here that we have a series of videos. Everything in here are images from actual MBA members and locations that we've been to. So it's not something where you're going to get a construction course on safety. This is very specific to the industry. We're proud of that. We're also always looking for feedback. So to the extent that you might have something that we're potentially missing, or you want to add something in, we can totally do that. One of the requests we often get is, can you do something with an employee manual? Can you put that into a course? And we absolutely can, because every employee manual is specific to that employer. But you'll see here that we have quite a bit on heat illness too, which is very important. And we have scenarios. It's fairly interactive, right? This is actually from this image in the back is from Sprung Monuments, which I don't know if folks know the folks over at Sprung at all. But yeah, the point is that people have to actually interact and make sure that they know the material before getting their certificate, which is emailed to them and put into our application, which you as a safety supervisor or owner have access to. In addition to the training with these custom videos and materials, we also have a 250-page custom manual, which you'll see here. I'll just go through the first couple pages. As a table of contents, I'll try to make this a little bigger to see. That covers everything you need from an OSHA standpoint. Again, happy to email this to any one of you or put it in the chat. In fact, I can probably do that right now, because I know reading things on a screen is not always the best. Nope, I can't. But if I get to the point at the end of this where you need me to chat it to you, I can. Now, some of the things that people think about automatically are, slips, trips, and falls. This has a really high level of correspondence between an injury and an OSHA fine. This is actually like the #1 thing. So making sure you have clear passageways and that there's clear signage around where there are hazards is really important. People often think about PPE as being very important. That's often the last line of defense. You need to have a written plan about it, but ultimately there are lots of steps you can take before PPE to make sure that people are safe. Boom trucks, scissor lift, power hand tools, lockout, tagout, all that stuff, cargo securement, super important. I mean, you're all dealing with really heavy objects, obviously, so making sure that you know the lines between how to load up and secure a truck versus like a DOT regulation. Once the truck's actually moving, that's not OSHA's jurisdiction. It's only whether or not see the chat coming in here. Thank you. I'll put that right into the chat there, Rachel. Yeah, the DOT and OSHA separate things pretty severely when the vehicle's actually moving. Then it becomes a bit of a DOT topic. See if I can chat this to everyone. Here are the first 5 programs. Not letting me chat it all at once, unfortunately, so I'm just going to chat a couple of them here at a time. Here are the next handful, and then here are the last 4. So make sure you have those. I'm again happy to email them out if it makes sense. We also have the only custom app in the industry, and when I say industry, I mean both Cutstone and Death Care. So our app contains lots of different features, including electronic safety data sheets, which you may have seen on the Caldwell Monument site here. So the way that we display our safety data sheets is in a database that's fully searchable. If you type in something like stencil filler, you'll get that right away, and it kicks out right to a PDF of that item. So you don't need to worry about having safety data sheets in terms of a book or binder anymore. It's really simple. It's actually just a poster that you put up on the wall with a QR code that comes right back to our application. So you can imagine that for a new employee, very easy, right? They just scan this, they get their safety data sheets. Even for an employee who needs a refresher, everybody's got a smartphone. You just put that up, scan it, safety data sheets. We also have a number of other posters, many of which are from OSHA, or we've designed them to meet an OSHA standard, like the silica notice here. Some of these also have QR codes telling you about how to operate an eye wash station or anything like that. We go right to videos showing you how to do that. So really easy. You can just click on these and print them off. Very simple. We're always adding new ones. Our application that I mentioned earlier has a number of different resources, including those posters that I mentioned. We also have state employment posters and OSHA quick cards and safety videos. So here are some of the same posters that I mentioned. For every state, we have dedicated links out to all the required state posters. So I don't know where you folks are based, but we have every state in here. OSHA quick cards. So these are really, really useful when thinking about educating your employees or teammates on a specific topic, whether it's heat illness safety or something else. And then we have a number of different videos that are dedicated to death care and cut stone. I'll show you a quick version of this one. Again, I don't think you can hear sound.
With mausoleums pertain to both the process.
You got sound on that? Okay, so quick example. I'll just go for about 20 seconds.
If your cemetery houses a mausoleum, you will face a unique set of hazards associated with their maintenance and usage. A mausoleum is any building or structure used for the interment of human remains. They can be smaller structures built for a singular family, or larger structures that can house many people. Hazards associated with mausoleums pertain to both.
So clearly this is a 4.5-minute video. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but the point is that we had a client ask us about mausoleum safety and we built them a specific video, right, that addresses the topic. So we're totally open to doing that for any MBNA member. Obviously there's a fee involved in that, but it won't be exorbitant, and it's something that we can then disseminate across the organization, right, if it's useful. If you're able to give us any sort of written text or images, we can put that into the video just the same, and then we can narrate it through too. One of the things that we can also do is if we have a video and you want us to further tweak it for the industry, like back and lifting safety, we can do that. Again, no charge. We just want your feedback to make sure that it's further customized to the industry. Another thing to note here is, depending on the number of employees you have, we have reporting that's pretty extensive. So this is a fairly large client in the death care space. They've got different regions. So you can see that if you consider this, each location having a completion percentage, or you can see some of their locations here have completion percentages. And then at each given location, we can upload both the custom digital manual that we've built for you and shipped in print, and their completion percentages, who their location manager is, the status of their compliance, how many tasks have been assigned to them, and then who their employees are. And at the employee level, what happens is they're going to come into the application and see exactly what they need to do from a workplace safety and compliance standpoint. And it's really simple. So for example, this person has completed their workplace violence training. They still have to complete their sexual harassment training. They just click this button. It takes them out to the same look and feel of the course I showed you before. They take the course, they pass it, the certificate is emailed to them, and then they're pushed right back into the application, showing that they completed the task. So for you as a manager or an owner, this is incredibly simple. And what we're most proud of is that it's not technologically challenging, because we have these things called magic links, which, for example, if you were to click on any one of these, if I say Aaron Brown here, Aaron Brown doesn't need to remember a login. All we need is for them to click the link, and it takes them right to what they need to do. And then it shows that Aaron Brown has completed the task. So we can obviously get this to be fairly extensive, but we find that most monument companies really just want the training, the safety data sheets, and the manual. That's fine. And that's very easy. That's what we're doing for Caldwell. Many of them just ask for safety data sheets management, and that's what we price the $595 plan, the starter plan at. Family plan is for anyone that's under a certain dollar volume. We can get this down to $1995. Business plan is for a fairly large company, and then enterprise is obviously for somebody much bigger than that. But I think most MBNA members fall into one of these two buckets, right? So if you just want to get electronic safety data sheets and some posters and some OSHA FAQs up in place and have some supportive materials for in-person meetings, very simple. And then Rachel had mentioned that if you type in MBNA on our website, you get a 10% discount off of any of our materials. So I feel like I've been rambling for a good 20 minutes here. I don't know. I don't know if there's anything else to cover. I'd love to answer any questions, or if anyone wants to see something that I kind of skimmed over, I'm happy to show that again.
Yeah, if you want to put questions in the chat or raise a hand or flag or unmute yourself, we're happy to take some questions live too. And Mark, let's make sure that they have your contact information.
Sure. Yeah. And also, one thing I'd like to know, because I kind of alluded to this in the beginning, is where's everyone based? Am I typing that into the chat? That might be useful for me to kind of think about who needs more. And Drew, thanks for confirming the audio, and you're welcome for chatting. Okay, so Utah, Kansas, got it. Yep, Georgia. Illinois, got it. So Illinois, Kevin, you might want to think about a few things. That state has, I mean, you know, it can be challenging from a regulatory standpoint. And then maybe, because no one's asking me questions, I'll ask one or two more. Do all of you have the following three things? An OSHA manual that's customized to your location? Do you do training on a regular basis, at least annually? And then do you have record keeping like safety data sheets in a booklet binder or electronically, and those updated regularly? That can just be yes, no. Drew, great question. How much time are small monument companies investing each year with OSHA compliance? I have no idea if we're overboard or not doing enough. I would say you definitely should do something once a month. Even if it's a brown bag lunch, let's just sit down and talk about, power tool safety, right? Let's do 15 minutes on this. Or if guys are driving forklifts, which I didn't cover in this for obvious reasons, right? Forklift training, I strongly recommend doing that in person. Washington trees, not politics. I don't quite get the joke. Washington State or Washington, D.C.? It's trees, not politics. Fair enough. Washington does have more regulatory requirements than most states. So I would look into those trees in more detail if I were you. Yeah, so how many of you actually have custom manuals, have training, and have record keeping in place? It's a safe space. I will just
I
know
was gonna
your
say I
name.
could edit the recording out so nobody knows.
Oh yeah, you could cut it out. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And then the last thing I'd ask you is, how many of you wake up in the morning and say, I can't wait to do my OSHA today? Because I know that's why you all go to work every day. That's the thing that nobody, this is not a sexy industry. It's not a sexy topic. So we get it. And if we can make it easier for you or help you out, let us know.
Well, I was gonna say I don't see any questions coming in, but yeah, appreciate those comments. So I'll go ahead and thank Mark, because the September issue of MB News is going to focus on operations, and he's been kind enough to send me some content for the next issue of the magazine. So we'll do a little bit of a follow-up in the next issue, but obviously Mark's and his company CST is a good partner with MBNA, and are always available to help out and satisfy those requirements. Oh, we got a question here. It says, what is included in the OSHA inspection advisement?
Yeah, so there's a checklist that we'll give you, and depending on how you complete that checklist, we'll give you corrective action as well. So the way that our process works, that's a good question, Ethan. Thanks for asking it. Is you'll fill out a questionnaire initially. We'll customize and print and ship a manual to you, and we'll put it on digitally online. We'll also put you through an annual kind of audit, basically. And it's a mock inspection from OSHA, basically. So you'll get that, and then you'll know exactly what OSHA will be looking for. And if you have any questions in addition to that, we can answer them.
Well, if there's no other questions, we'll wind up our 30 minutes. Again, thank you, Mark, for presenting today. We did record this. We'll get this up on the website. So if you need a copy of the recording, anything that was shared, we'll have that available. And as always, watch the MBNA website for other upcoming webinars and information about discounts that are available through member partnerships. So thank you all for joining us today.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.